Hi, I'm Carrie, a stroke survivor and a Bind member.
And I'm Kezia, a stroke survivor and member of Bind as well. And welcome to Aphasia Part 2. For the next couple of episodes, we're going to be focusing on aphasia, since it is affections that are done to brain injury survivors. If you don't know, aphasia is a language disorder that affects a person's ability to communicate.
Yes,
of course. And for example, Kezia. Example.
Well, there you go. And today we welcome our other Carl with a K, who's actually Carl H. And you may remember Carl from, again, Season 1. He was our very first guest on the episode back in March, where he talked about what is brain injury. But today, again, we're going to talk with him about his experience with aphasia and how the activism that he does to share what aphasia is to those that are not affected by aphasia. So welcome, Carl.
Well, thank you for having me.
Welcome to Bindwaves, the official podcast of the Brain Injury Network of Dallas. I'm Brian White, Bind's Executive Director. On each episode, we'll be providing insight into the brain injury community. We'll be talking to members and professionals regarding their stories and the important role of Bind's Clubhouse. We work as a team to inspire hope, community, and a sense of purpose to survivors, caregivers, and the public. Thank you for tuning into Bindwaves. Let's get on with the show.
So our first question is, again, we know that we're not asking you the technical, but can you tell us what type of aphasia you're affected by, and then explain to our listeners kind of what that means to you, how it affects you?
Mine is a mix. They have two kinds of major assignments of what kind of aphasia you have. You have Broca's aphasia, which is the kind of aphasia where you leave words out. Like you want to say, I'd like to have an apple, and you just say, I would like to have. And nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. Wernicke's aphasia is where you speak non-words. You just make up a word. It's like instead of I want an apple, I want a helicopter. Or, you're just not using the right words, or you're using words that you lisp, or you're not speaking a word. So I had both.
So I guess that would be kind of like why in the beginning your first word to everything was noodle?
I chose noodle was my only noun. Noodle was everybody, it was every place, every road, every planet was noodle. And my second noun was potato. So that should tell you all you need to know about dear old Carl.
And for our listeners that can't see, Carl's rubbing his belly because he's hungry.
That's true. Oh yeah, that's kind of funny. I didn't know what happened to me in the hospital, but I could only say cheese and my brother's name, Emmanuel. That was it. But I knew I was saying the wrong words. I was like, I know, and then I would end up being mad or crying or something. But thank you for noodle.
With my aphasia, I was saying the wrong words, but I could not hear myself saying those words. I heard myself saying I would like to have an apple, and I'm saying noodle, 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 and so I did not hear myself saying the wrong thing, heard myself saying what I thought I was saying. So I look at people's eyes are staring at me like, what in the hell is he saying? And I was saying, you don't understand me? And they're like,
no.
Don't know what you're saying.
Yeah. When you were informed about the aphasia, were you given all this information, and did you understand what was explained to you at the time?
I did not even know the word aphasia. You don't grow up in high school learning about aphasia. It was you learn about cancer and heart disease and all these other maladies, but aphasia is not a word that you grow up learning about. And so I'm not sure I heard the word until well into my therapy with a speech therapist. They said, that's your aphasia work. And I go, what's that? That's what you have. You have the lack of communications. Now, aphasia is not just speech. Aphasia is a lack of reading and writing also, and I had all of that. And I always thought I had what's called global aphasia, which I thought was all four of those, or all three of those, not able to read, not able to write, not able to speak. But global aphasia, you can't understand what other people are saying to you. I did not have that malady. I could understand everything people said to me, but I could not communicate back accurately.
Yeah. And I definitely, I totally understand with you too, because when I was told that I have aphasia, it wasn't until I was like, stroke happened to me in December. I didn't figure that out until like late February. And like, I was like, all right, whatever that is. And then my family too, like no one had any idea what that meant or what that was, or does that mean it's forever, or like, yeah.
That's what you worry about.
Yeah.
Because you're not communicating and you think, is this forever?
Right.
And now look at me.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't shut me up.
That's true. Me too. Yeah.
All three of us have that affliction. So
Yes.
So while you were in rehabilitation, after they told you had aphasia, so what kind of activities did you do to work on being able to communicate, like so that you weren't just saying noodle?
Well, first the speech therapists would tell you to repeat after me. And you didn't always do well with that even, at the beginning. But they have you speak with them. They have conversations with you so that you start working on reaching your words and choosing the correct words and speaking without the lisp and so on and so forth. So the speech therapists are your heroes. They're making you work hard to do what you need to do. But you don't know what your losses are until they make you talk. So,
Right. Well, and I know you always tease, and I always bring this up because I know you a little bit too well, that they make you relearn the alphabet. And so you have to like say that, they show you the letter and then you have to pick the letter. And you say, if you say something in Z enough, you're going to be right eventually.
yeah, I got 2 letters right. They had 26 tiles. They put up the tiles and say, what's this letter? And I got P and Z correct. And all I can always say is if you answer P and Z often enough, eventually you're going to be right, because I don't remember knowing any of the 26 letters.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So how could you be expected to read or write if you can't identify
recognize
the
them.
letters of the alphabet?
That's so interesting. I thankfully didn't have that issue, but I did have to. I had an issue saying A, B, C, D, like in the order that it's supposed to be in. I had a great speech therapist, and the other one was a little baby. He was like my little brother. He would come to the hospital and be like, A, B, C, D. And like, okay, cool. That's how he was my teacher. It was the best. Definitely the best.
I had to sing the alphabet in order to do it. Something about singing is different than trying to talk. So when you're singing, I could sing A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Ooh,
but
look at that voice.
To get him on American Idol.
my mother was a vocalist, so she recorded.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think I feel the same way. I think Beyonce was like that. I can talk when I'm singing. Not really, but yeah, trying. I would do it. So yeah. But those are great examples as to like when you were in rehabilitation and stuff. But what about now? Like obviously it's been a while and you're so active. So what is some of the things that you do now to like contribute and like continue your progress with aphasia?
Well, my aphasia is still here.
Yeah.
I'm speaking well and you hear me speaking well, but I forget words. And so every so often a word that I want to reach doesn't come. And I've been taught by the speech therapist so long ago, just choose a word that's similar. Or you can get some help by using similar words and reach out to the audience you're speaking to and say, can you help me? And then they'll find that word. I was born in Philadelphia, and somebody asked me not too long ago, what city were you born in? And I could not remember Philadelphia. How do you forget where you were born? How do you forget where you were raised? And I'm talking, I go, it's a city in Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania is just as big a word as Philadelphia. But as soon as I said it's in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia came to my head. So I still have aphasia. I still have the lack of finding words that I should know by heart. But it is an affliction, and they say forever. I hope not. I'm still working on it. I go out and speak to people. I speak to new patients and give them hope for the future. So as soon as I told them I couldn't speak a word when I initially had my problems, I see the eyes. And the ones that have aphasia, the eyes are especially, wide open because they get, I can get better.
Right.
That's the whole purpose.
And before I ask the next question, I'm going to take this moment to say, don't forget to hit that like button and that notify button if you're watching on YouTube, and remember to share with all your friends. And now back to Carl. So, part of our, I feel like I know this, but one of our questions that we wonder about is, do you feel you've progressed or regressed? And I know you feel like you've progressed a lot, and you just mentioned some of your things with regressing and that you still have missed words, but I know you tell people that you still read the newspaper. You went from barely reading the newspaper to you read the entire newspaper, the real paper newspaper, every day.
Yes, initially I could not read at all. I remember the speech therapist saying, read this paragraph to me. Couldn't start. Read this sentence to me. Okay, what's the first word? Okay, I see that you don't read. And so we had to work on it. So ever since those days when I had that lack of ability to read, I would go to the Dallas Morning News, which we get at the house every day, and I'd try and read a sentence. And it would take me 10 minutes to get through a sentence. And in an hour to do a paragraph, and so it was just hard. And I did it every day. I started reading one article a day. I started reading a whole page a day. And now I read the entire paper every day, and I still do that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think on a personal basis, right, that's a great tool for you to be, hey, I'm going to continue doing this continuously all the time, and I think that's awesome that you read the real newspaper. I'm already very wow. With the tiny little fonts, really cool. But is there any other tools that you think would be really great that you currently use or that you would like to add on to really help you with the aphasia?
I think the whole goal to aphasia is persistence. The problem with not being able to speak well is you get those eyes that I mentioned earlier, and somebody's looking at you like, what is wrong with this guy? And so you're apt to quit. You just don't want to talk in public. And so you have to beat that. You have to take it on personally that you're going to continue to talk to people and continue to work on it and continue to work with that person you're talking to until you get it right. And as long as you are persistent, you'll win. And I tell that to all the new patients. I say, if you have aphasia, just keep going.
Right.
Keep going. Don't stop. The brain is amazing. It reconnects to all those things you used to know. I always say, they say you learn something new every day. Well, when you've had a brain injury, that something new you learned that day might be something you used to know before the brain injury. So I just believe in that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this. I said it talking to other Carl earlier, that our brand purpose is purpose, community, hope, purpose, community. I was doing backwards. I might have still said it backwards, but y'all know, it doesn't matter. I don't even have aphasia. Just a brain injury. But so you have your purpose in going out and sharing about aphasia with the community, as well as you also go and interact with the Police Officers Association and talk to them about aphasia. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got involved doing that.
Well, I can't take credit for starting it. Jim started it. He had aphasia, and he heard about a story, and I'm going to tell the story about the Dallas Police. A woman and her new husband the new husband was fighting her son that she had with the first husband, and she thought they were going to kill each other. And so she called 911 to have somebody come and help. And so she dialed 911, didn't talk because she knew she had severe aphasia. and just put the phone down. I didn't know the police could find you as long as the phone is working. And apparently she did. I guess she saw enough, on the TV
Right.
to figure that out. So she put the phone down and walked outside, was pacing up and down on the sidewalk. And the police came and said, "Are you the one who called 911?" She nodded. They said, "What's going on?" She pointed at the house. They said, "Something's going on in the house?" And she nodded again and said, "What's going on?" And she pointed at the house again because she didn't want to speak because of the aphasia. And eventually they said, "We've got to know before we can go in." And she started to speak. She sounded like, the lisping of the words, sounded like you've been drinking. They arrested her for being miscalling an emergency. So,
Right.
so she went to jail for 18 hours before they figured out she had aphasia. And so the police, Dallas police, now have an interest in understanding aphasia. I go speak about once a quarter to the new members, and I speak once a year to the existing members, and talk about aphasia and what it is, and my personal experience with being stopped by the police and having aphasia. I would pull out what I have on my keychain. I have something that says I have aphasia. It's not a lack of intelligence; it's a lack of ability to speak, and help them out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's actually one of the questions I think given by different listeners and followers was just like, how does aphasia affect your safety? And I think that was a great example, like how it could be affecting it. But can you partake a little bit more on safety and having aphasia, and how do you respond to that?
Well, when you're alone and you have aphasia and you've got something you need to call somebody about, you're scared to death to make that call because you don't think they're going to understand you, but you kind of have to do that call. So that is a safety issue. If you're left by yourself and you have aphasia, you got serious problems. Use a computer if you don't have reading and writing problems to send your message. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And maybe learn how to text back.
Well, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So, they kind of answer that.
I know that you talk a lot to the police officers. Is there like other communities in which you speak to? Because I would really truly believe that you're like an activist as to like other brain injury survivors and talking for them, and to people that are within the community that probably have no idea what you're speaking about, or if that were even an issue. Do you speak to other parts of the community to do some more education?
We've been to churches. We've been to community meetings that to tell them about aphasia. I don't know if you know, but there are at least 200,000 people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that have aphasia.
Oh, wow.
I never realized that until I heard it recently, and so the odds of you running into somebody with aphasia are pretty good. And so, we just ask the people to understand aphasia and to take care of people that they know that have aphasia, that give them your phone number. And if they call and they just start speaking badly, you just go to their house. Just go and find out what they need.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my next question that we were going to say. What would you like our listeners to know? Something specific. You kind of covered all those about aphasia, and how they should treat someone with aphasia. Not just if they know someone that if they call you and start punching numbers or talk gibberish, just go to them. But just the general public, when they run into someone with aphasia, that instead of just giving them the dead-eyed look, or like, you look like you're crazy and don't know what you're talking about, so I'm not going to talk to you. What would you, I don't know, what kind of advice would you give to our listeners and to other people? Like, how should you react, treat?
If you see somebody that has aphasia, difficulty speaking, the first thing that you do is give them time to answer your question or to respond to you. They need time to find the right words. As I said, Wernicke's aphasia, you use the wrong words a lot of times, and In Broca's aphasia, you leave words out. So give them time to respond to what you've asked. Also, don't raise your voice. Like, if I speak louder, you're going to understand me better.
Right.
That doesn't help.
Right.
And it only gives anxiety to the aphasia patient. They have trouble with that. So give them time, speak normally, and if you don't understand what they're asking you, ask them to repeat, because aphasia patients are used to being asked to say it again. Maybe I'll understand it if you say it again, or use a different word or something. And so give them time, give them the ability to repeat their answer to you, so until you understand it. And don't pretend you understand it and answer something wrong that upsets them, that they didn't get their point across. So make sure you understand what they're saying. Repeat to them what you think they asked you, and they can nod, and you say, okay, well, here's my answer.
Awesome. I think that was a great way to end this conversation, because that's great news. And honestly, everyone should be repeated that all the time. Yeah. Consistently. Repeat.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us, Carl. Remember, this is Carl H. Early part 1 was Carl K. But you can reach Carl H. if you have more questions for him, or you're curious about having him come and speak to your group, your activity, or your listeners. If you have something like the Police Officers Association or anything like that, you can reach him at info@thebind.org, and we will get him contacted to you. And again, we'll put all of that information in the listener notes when we post the podcast. So this is Carl H.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Again, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And like we also have shared, if you would like to contact us, the hosts of Bindwaves, you can contact us at our email at bindwaves@thebind.org.
And just one more time, don't forget to hit that like button, that share button, that subscribe button, and the notify button, and tell all your friends. And when you see us post on Facebook, go ahead and share that with your friends on Facebook. That would be awesome for us to get more listeners. So thanks for listening.
Okay, until next time.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to Bind Waves and continue to support Bind and our nonprofit mission.
We support brain injury survivors as they reconnect into the life, the community, and their workplace.
And we couldn't do that without great listeners like you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Continue watching. Until next time.
Until next time.